Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Thursday, August 8th. Today is day 307 since October 7th, since the attacks by Hamas, since the vast majority of food, water, gas, and electricity was cut off from the more than 2 million people living in Gaza. The World Central Kitchen said that one of their Palestinian staff members was killed near Deir al-Balah in Gaza yesterday. The organization said they're looking into the incident. They believed that Nadi Salut was off duty at the time. The Israeli military did not know about the incident and said that they've been in contact with the World Central Kitchen. The Israeli Supreme Court yesterday considered a petition to close a prison, the State Taman facility in the Negev, where soldiers have been accused of abusing Palestinians. We've been talking about that extensively. Rights groups have been engaged in a legal battle to shut down the detention centers, saying that the facilities are grave. They've been committing abuses against inmates by Israeli soldiers. The Israeli military yesterday ordered Palestinians to leave several neighborhoods in North Gaza to move south to Gaza City, warning shortly afterward that it was preparing to take immediate and forceful action against Hamas and other militants who, it said, have been firing rockets towards Israel. That was reported by the New York Times. This past weekend, we've been talking about this quite extensively, but schools and shelters have been bombed. At least 30 Palestinians were killed and wounded in Israeli attacks on 2 United Nations-run schools in Gaza City. Most of the victims were children, according to the territory's health ministry. The Palestinian Civil Defense in Gaza said 80% of those who were killed in strikes on Sunday on the Hassan, Salama, and al-Nasser schools were children. On Saturday, a similar Israeli strike hit another school compound in Gaza City that killed 17 people. Education in Gaza, as of July 30th, all of the 625,000 enrolled students in Gaza have lost one full scholastic year. 39,000 students missed the Taljihi, which is the 12th grade official examination. This is the first time in decades that's happened. It means that none of them will be able to transition on into higher education. The majority of them may never return to school again. That's a report that came out by UNICEF and Save the Children. The White House said yesterday that it's as close as ever to reaching a ceasefire and hostage deal. This is a quote from John Kirby, the White House National Security Council spokesperson. He said there's a good proposal before both sides. They need to accept it so that we can get this in place. The White House has said they'll put pressure and do what it takes, to get the deal done. That's according to The Hill. And Crisis Action summarized the negotiations this way. They said that there was a quarrel between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu. We've talked about this some. I've given some updates on this. About Israel's approach to the ceasefire talks, and that it mirrors the growing domestic tensions between Netanyahu and senior Israeli security officials over his perceived resistance to a swift deal with Hamas. Biden has publicly chided Netanyahu for failing to agree to another truce in Gaza. Senior leaders from Israel's military and intelligence agencies have privately grown frustrated with the prime minister for introducing new conditions and fraught negotiations. Channel 12 reported that the chiefs accused Netanyahu of blocking the deal, while the prime minister said that he has accused them of being weak negotiators. That was according to the New York Times. Channel 12 reported that Biden had accused Netanyahu of delaying the deal, that Netanyahu's assurances that he was not, and the president said to Netanyahu, "Stop bullshitting me." That was a report from Gallant, who told Netanyahu, "For all moral and strategic reasons, I think that we should see the deal as an opportunity. There will be no deal under the conditions you've set, and you know it. There's no security reason to delay the deal. Since we're speaking honestly, I will tell you your considerations are not in the best interest of the matter," the Jerusalem Post has reported. We also have talked about Hamas named the new leader, Yahya Sinwar, as the successor to Ismail Haniyeh, who was assassinated in Tehran last Wednesday. This appointment of Sinwar is a message to the toughness that Hamas is not compromising, according to a regional diplomat who is familiar with the negotiations. Reuters reported that this week. There has been internal turmoil in a conversation amongst Israeli defense officials. The prime minister has blamed the delay in negotiations on waiting for written commitments from the Americans to continue the fighting. But one of those present at the negotiations has revealed the U.S. has already agreed to give approval for Israel to continue fighting after the deal is signed. This has been a concern of Netanyahu since the beginning. He always has wanted to continue fighting in Gaza after a ceasefire deal is agreed to. Hamas has always said they will not release further hostages until a permanent deal is agreed to, a permanent ceasefire negotiation. It's been a stopping point since the beginning. The conclusion of the negotiators is that Netanyahu is on the verge of missing a strategic opportunity, and because of personal narrow politics. For Netanyahu, what is the most difficult picture from a hostage deal right now? The return of the Palestinians to the north. That's been a stopping point. Photos of a return, could be a PR issue. The extreme right, the not so extreme right, fell in love with the idea of the expulsion of Palestinians from northern Gaza. There's people on the far right in Israel who want that to last forever. They actually want Israelis to reoccupy Gaza. And so that is a sticking point as well. According to Ynet in Israel, they are claiming this is a false concern. Netanyahu can already say that he has entered Rafah against the will of the world, including Biden, who said that Rafah was a red line. And so these are conversations that are happening in Israel. The U.S. State Department called allegations of sexual abuse against Palestinian detainees horrific and said Israel has to investigate them swiftly and fully, according to the State Department. They said there's zero tolerance of any sexual abuse, rape of detainees, period. CNN reported. The EU condemned far-right Finance Minister Smotrich for saying it might be justified to starve 2 million civilians until hostages are returned. EU Foreign Policy Chief Borrell said today that deliberate starvation of civilians is a war crime. Smotrich advocating for such is beyond, I can't pronounce that word, I'm sorry. Israel's foreign minister said today it plans to effectively close Norway's diplomatic mission to the Palestinians. The reason why is Norway, along with Spain and Ireland, are officially planning to recognize a Palestinian state. Israel has told the U.S. that if Lebanon's Hezbollah harms Israeli civilians as a part of retaliation for the assassination of its top military commander, the IDF's response would be disproportionate. Iran's foreign minister has said that its country will respond to the killing of Hanania at the right time and in the appropriate manner. We're still waiting to see that happen. Iran has also warned all commercial airlines to avoid its airspace for 3 hours. That was yesterday because it was practicing military drills. And in St. Louis, the prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell defeated U.S. Representative Cori Bush in the Democratic primary in St. Louis. This was the second time this year that one of the party's incumbents was ousted in an expensive contest that reflected deep divisions over the war in Gaza. Bush was a member of the progressive congressional group known as the Squad. She was seeking a third term in Missouri's 1st congressional district. Meanwhile, it's been almost a week since both Hanania and Shakur were killed. There's been no major attack as of yet on Israel. Diplomats have been scurrying around the region in an effort to stave off any escalation. The question has been, what will Iran's response and Hezbollah's response be? Will it be a measured effort to avoid a regional war, much like the last time Iran felt like it had to respond to the former Israeli attack in April, or will Iran's leaders believe that the latest attacks require a more forceful response? That was a discussion in Al Jazeera. Haaretz reported today that U.S. officials conveyed to Iran via intermediaries that if a blast that killed Hamas's political leader Hanania was caused by a covert operation and did not kill any Iranian citizens, that the Islamic Republic should reevaluate a military attack on Israel. Politico reported that, and they said that Tehran seems to have recalibrated. The U.S. does not expect an attack on Israel imminently. So that was a discussion. His Holiness Pope Francis prayed for peace to extinguish strife in the Middle East, to a general audience today, calling for a ceasefire, praying for other parts of the world where there is contention and strife. He said, I pray for peace to extinguish strife, love will overcome hatred, and revenge will be disarmed by forgiveness. He said he's following the conditions in the Middle East with great concern on all fronts, beginning with Gaza, where the humanitarian situation is very serious and unsustainable. We will continue to pray for peace and to work for a comprehensive ceasefire and an end to the atrocities in Gaza and the violence everywhere. Amen.